You're listening to the Next Wave Radio Network.
Round one, fight!
Can't we do our own secret shows?
All our shows are secret shows.
We have the tools, we have the talent.
You have to use so many cuss words.
Let's go!
Ooh, yeah!
Did you see anything good lately? Like in the last week?
You know, we did. Continuing the summer movie train, I guess.
Yeah.
Trying to catch up on those. Finally got around to starting Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, nice.
I say started because have not finished that movie yet. We made it about halfway through.
Oh,
we started a little late, so we're getting a little tired. But then honestly, the next day, Jen and I both found ourselves not really eager to jump back into it.
Oh, wow.
Just not getting the same feeling. Well, I mean, okay, so that movie, we hold it a very special place because it was the first movie we saw in theaters. It was like our first movie date.
Yeah.
And neither one of us had seen it before. And on top of it being a fantastic movie, Joe, I remember you at the time saying it was like the new Star Wars, you know?
Yeah.
So we love that first one. The second one we enjoy a lot too, obviously not as strong as the first one. And we were really kind of hoping to go out with a bang. And so far we know it's the last one, right? We know there's a little bit of a downer, from the very opening credits, just a somber tone.
Well, even the trailer has a somber tone to it.
True. Yeah, exactly. And that's not what made us fall in love with the Guardians movies. No. And I'm already kind of like 1 foot out the door on the whole MCU anyway. So I guess I was just hoping for it to be stronger and remind us what we loved about that first one. And I just haven't got that vibe yet. We will finish it. I bought it, so we have to. But yeah, that's our feelings.
It's a shame because the way that when Guardians came into the MCU, it was this breath of fresh air because it was like everything has been so serious and now, it's okay to laugh again. It's okay to be wacky. And James Gunn, essentially just kind of changed the language of the MCU with that one film. And suddenly they were like, all right, we could do that with Thor. Like Thor Ragnarok it's okay to be funny, but also have some gravitas to it. And they did that with all these other movies. But then suddenly it was like within the course of Infinity War and Endgame was like where like the whole thing with Peter Quill and Thanos and all of that, like they did something that was so against what his character is. Yeah. And then we had to like live with the consequences of that.
I know.
And then it's like suddenly like everything post Endgame has been just sad. It's been so downer and sad. Like, you had the whole thing with like, I don't know if you saw the new Thor, but that one's sad. Wanda, sad. Like that's one of the reasons why I loved the new Doctor Strange, because it was fun. Like it still had some of that tragic Wanda stuff going on, but it was also really fun. And that's why I liked Loki too. Loki was super fun.
I love Loki.
But then like everything else has been like this, just seeing the trailer for Guardians, like, okay, so we're going to have this sad story because I know I've read the comics. I know what the High Evolutionary is all about, so basically we're going to watch a movie about like animal cruelty and experiments. And like, that's fun, I guess.
Yeah.
And also the whole thing about like Gamora and Quill and like he's sad because she's gone, or is she gone? I don't know. But yeah, there is like I can see what you're saying. Like there's definitely a different DNA to this movie.
Yes. And
I don't know what the reason is. It's the same thing we talked about last week about Indiana Jones. Like, why does everything right now have to be so sad? Why does it even like these old heroes have to be sad? Everything has to be sad. What is this a product? Because I know the MCU is kind of a product of like nerds of the 80s, and kind of coming in and we're bringing the stuff that we grew up with, and now that's becoming the big popular thing.
Yep.
But then there's also like this resurgence of like stuff like Cobra Kai and Wicked, where we get now the tragic backstory of what made the villain and redeem them. Why? Like there comes a point, I think, where we don't have to get too deep into the emotions. Do I sound callous saying that? I think maybe I've become desensitized.
I also feel like an asshole saying, "Oh, this movie's too sad." Like everything has to be popcorn and gumballs and rainbows. Like we want some emotional complexity, but we also want to have a good
Yeah.
time. Like at the heart of it, these are still like superhero movies. So yeah, we're kind of falling into a little bit of the Zack Snyder trap, which is ironic because James Gunn is basically the new Zack Snyder. And I hope that doesn't translate into a dour tone for his DCU.
Yeah, I
that's
agree.
possible.
While I love Ted Lasso, like I don't know, they're just
I know, right?
It seems to be now we've entered this generation of like people are working through some shit, and I feel like that's fine. But as being the guy that also loves like the '80s Masters of the Universe movie, like
Right.
sometimes
Can we just
it's
have some
okay to
fun?
just have some popcorn fun. Like give
Yeah,
me
some laughs,
and I guess
some
that's
chuckles.
why I love the Fast and the Furious, because
Yeah, escapism.
they're unapologetic with the way that they are. It's very much escapism. The Fast and the Furious, and what we're going to be talking about today on the podcast, right here on Low Res High Def. It used to be a podcast that we did about movies, and then we did a podcast about video games, and then we're like, why are we pigeonholing ourselves into one thing? Let's just talk about everything that makes us who we are, the kinds of nerds that we are, the fans that we are. We grew up low res, Atari, Nintendo, and we grew up through like the 64-bit era, the digital era with PlayStation, and then we've basically followed Xbox and PlayStation and all like the high def consoles just to come back around. And now we're the guys that buy the HDMI mini versions of the low res video games. So that's in a nutshell.
Joe, sitting right next to my PlayStation 4 Pro is a SNES Mini Classic.
Both
hooked up to the same 4K OLED TV.
Dude, let me tell you, man, I've been playing, instead of playing Tears of the Kingdom, I've been playing Paper Mario. And when I'm not playing Paper Mario, I just got a copy of X-Men Wolverine's Revenge for the Game Boy Advance.
Oh, you hate that game.
That I've been playing. No, not for Game Boy Advance.
You love this one?
No, dude. No, Wolverine's Revenge is great.
This is the good one.
Okay. So Wolverine's Revenge is good, and also they released a game called what was it? X-Men Origins Wolverine, and there's that whole. I think I've told you about this too. Like there was this whole phenomenon where it's like the movie sucked, but the video game was one of the best games ever released.
And it was brought down
to
by
the point
film,
where people were like making fake trailers to go see X-Men Origins Wolverine, the game, the movie, where it's like, we're going to go see X-Men Origins Wolverine, the game. You mean the movie? No, the game. It's fantastic.
So something good did come out of that. Okay.
Yeah, something wonderful came out of it. But again, I've been splitting my time between like two ancient games right now at this point, instead of jumping into Tears of the Kingdom. And a lot of that has to do, and I know we've talked about this before, with my whole hang up with pleasure delay. I delay pleasure. If I know something's going to be really good, I want to get other stuff out of the way first. Kind of like the way I eat food. I eat the stuff that I know isn't as delicious as
empty calories.
The main thing.
Oh,
yeah, like if I get like let's say like if I get a burger. And it's like, I'll get burger, and the burger's just fantastic. The fries are pretty good, but the burger's fantastic. I'll eat the fries first. I'm going to go through the fries first, then I attack the burger. I don't want to get delayed or I don't want to get distracted, rather, with something that isn't as good. Like, I have got a method, and my whole life, people have been like, why don't you just eat it all at once? Just like have a few bites of fries, have a few bites of burgers.
Something
and
to look
that I
forward
say,
to.
fuck you. Eat the way you want to eat, and let me eat the way I eat.
That's right. Yeah.
It's the same person that used to beat me up because I eat my cheeseburger in a circle. I eat all the way around.
Oh, do you?
And then I
that's
attack
interesting.
the center. Yes, because the center is always mixed the best.
I eat my Reese's peanut butter cups that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the meat to toppings ratio. Exactly.
Yes, exactly. So there you go. Learning way too much about me and my psychoses.
Well, just wait till we dive in.
Before we get into the topic of tonight, which I'm really excited to do because last week was super fun for me. Now the thing that I'm going to be suffering from is like I'm less comfortable being the one that's in the hot seat. So yeah, I may ramble nervously while I'm doing this. But before we get into that, what is your obsession? What's your current obsession? What's your obsession? What's your obsession?
So my obsession this week isn't really even my obsession or anything I should be proud of. But we had some friends. You and I have mutual friends, Joe, that have just welcomed a newborn into the world. Been waiting for little Penny to. I've been using the Penny joke ad nauseum, sending that GIF to poor Shanna for the last 9 months.
And I've been going, penny for your thoughts.
But here she is. She's finally here. So we're, at least in this household, have been on baby watch for quite some time and obsessed with little pictures of that little nugget. Oh, my gosh, with a full head of hair. She's adorable.
Oh, my gosh, she's so cute.
Don't have any children of my own. Don't plan to have any children, but I could literally hear my wife ovulating looking at these photos. It was that.
That's so funny.
We were both that obsessed with this child.
They make some cute kids, those guys. I don't want to say their last name. Just to, I don't.
Congrats to Walt and Shanna.
But yes, to Walt and Shanna.
That's my obsession.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy for them. I can't wait to see that kiddo. What I love is seeing the pictures of Walt because he looks thrilled. He looks fantastic. He looks so happy. Mm-hmm. But it's like at the same time, I'm just imagining he's like got the alarm is going off in his head, like, oh no. First off, just to be a girl dad, not just to have a kid again, but to be a girl dad, and now double that anxiety. Like, oh God, like there's just a whole other level of worry that comes from being a girl dad. And
absolutely,
welcome to the party, pal.
You know what, Joe? You actually just reminded me of another obsession this week. A new show that we've been watching on Amazon Prime called The Power. Are you familiar with this? Came out a few months ago.
No.
It's a mostly female cast, and here's the premise. It's present day, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like X-Men, but only for women. Women start getting this power, this electricity. They can make sparks and what?
Whatever. Why can't women just do their own thing?
I know exactly. Why is it got to be ex-women?
Why has it got to be ex-women? Why has it got to be just leave the man stuff alone? Why they got to make a woman version of everything?
That's so funny you say that, Joe, and salient because on the IMDb page where people had reviews, because I was kind of researching it because it's a really great show. Again, the premise is women start getting this power of electricity where they can shock people or cause water to be electrified. And how it changes. I mean, that's just kind of like the sci-fi premise of it, but what the show is really about, the theme, is how it kind of changes the power structure now when men can't force themselves onto women or force their wills, when women now have the upper hand genetically. And how that's playing out. And predictably, there are little man babies on YouTube or on the internet complaining about basically what you just said. But still, really impressed with the production value and the acting and the story. So check it out. The Power on Amazon Prime.
I don't understand why anything that has to do with like just empowering females like is so threatening to people. Did you see that that Shapiro guy? What's his name? Not Robert Shapiro. Ben Shapiro.
Yeah,
like
that ass hat.
About the Barbie movie. Like he went out and he's talking about like how dangerous the Barbie movie is to people and whatever, to society.
It's a grown man.
And he went and like burned Barbie dolls in a barbecue, and it's like, what?
All this performative outrage.
You're a grown ass man.
Exactly.
These people, they're trying to make us all gay. It's like, no.
People just want to live their lives and enjoy what they want to enjoy.
A movie about Barbie. It's not for you. So just leave it alone.
I don't know. Shouldn't it? Can it be? Because it's
well, it's clearly not for Ben Shapiro. It's not for the Tucker Carlsons of the world. And the thing is, they know that. They know that like the Barbie movie isn't going to be for you. It's about a woman who is like Barbie. In essence, and Harper went and saw it with some friends. I want to take Sarah to see it because I'm really curious. No, I haven't seen it yet. But I mean, my whole thing is like, just looking at it on the surface, Barbie has like a million jobs. Okay, like that's what we know about Barbie. Barbie's been a teacher. She's been an astronaut. She's been a cowgirl. She's been a pilot. She's been a construction worker. She has all these, and I know and they have other characters, other Barbies that do all these other things. They rule the world. The Barbies rule the world, and the Kens are the one. They have no personality. They're just kind of arm candy
or genitalia.
And so I'm assuming, well, none of them, even the women don't have genitalia, but but the whole thing is like, and I've read some of that plays into the movie, that like the dudes are side characters, and like then when they go to the real world and they find out that it's like there's this patriarchy, and Ken's like, oh wow, so guys are in control here, like yeah, like that. But it's true. Like for anyone to refute that is ignorant. But then to try to control the narrative of what happens in Barbie Land, come on, guys. That would be like someone getting pissed off about the Lego movie. Like, these people are too square. There aren't enough rounded edges. Like, come on. This is you're getting worked up about a movie about a doll. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself.
You should not be threatened by that.
You're insulting the world. So stop.
Thank you. Yes.
My obsession. I dove back into this recently. I don't know if you've seen this, Joel, but the Chris Pine Dungeons and Dragons movie. It's so good.
I still have not seen that. I see it's on video on demand now, and I'm intrigued both by reviews from you and others I've seen.
You've got to see it. This movie is so fun and clever, and it's so. It's so delightful, especially in the face of the last time that they tried to make a movie with Jeremy Irons and Marlon Wayans. And, I tried watching it again recently. I was telling Jay, like, I had it on my phone and was trying to watch it after we saw the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. Phone. And what's funny is, like, there is a point where, like, this theme of honor among thieves is spoken like 2 or 3 times. It's about the halfway point of that movie. And I'm like, that's the subtitle of the movie that just came out, Honor Among Thieves. I wonder if that's like a deliberate nod to the old film. Like, okay, we're
unofficial sequel.
Yeah, exactly. But no, dude, like it's so the only criticism really that I can give this movie is that, like, my favorite character is maybe the one that they developed the least, but she's the one that kicks the most ass. It's like, all right, I'm okay with that. It's the tiefling character. She's her name is Doric, and she turns into like a huge owl bear. And I'm like, oh, dude, that's badass. Ooh. In fact, she's the character that she plays the girl in It. The new version of It.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, she's everywhere.
The actress's name. Sophia Lillis.
There you go. She's great.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's awesome. And she keeps it up. Like, the whole cast works so well together in this movie. And that's, like, to have a movie that feels like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. Complete with a character that feels like an NPC. That the DM just kind of made up to guide the party through a dungeon. It's like fun. This character, he shows up just to guide them through a dungeon and then walks off into like the sunset and is so typical to his character type. Like they pay attention to the character types. Like you've got your lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good, lawful neutral. Like there's these different archetypes, and they adhere to them really closely. And man, it's just, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to love it. There's so many Easter eggs and so many references that you're going to get. But even if you're not familiar with it, like my wife isn't familiar with Dungeons and Dragons or the lore, and she had a great time with it as well. I think that it's worth your time. And yeah, it's been probably spinning on either on my laptop while I'm working, or I've got it on the iPad while I'm sitting here at the house playing some games. I'm obsessed with it right now. It's
I'm going to check it out. I've been meaning to check it out. The only complaint, I don't even know that it's a valid complaint, it doesn't sound like it, is that it wasn't meta. I think we all expect nowadays, thanks to the Lego movie and, continuing through now even to the Barbie movie, Barbie isn't really about Barbie. Barbie's the movie is a message about, misogyny and the patriarchy and maybe not so much. But it's about, Barbie goes out into the real world. Like there's some subtext to it.
Yeah.
And I think people were expecting that with Dungeons and Dragons, and honestly, I kind of was. I thought it was going to be, all right, how are they going to work? Is this like a Jumanji situation where real people get pulled into D&D, much like the cartoon, the beloved cartoon?
Yeah.
But it's not. Man. But I kind of appreciate
Great tip of the hat to that cartoon in this movie,
is there
too.
Really? All right. Well, I mean,
there absolutely is.
I'm sold on it. I kind of did want a meta version, but, with you and I beginning this podcast talking about Guardians of the Galaxy and how that didn't really scratch the itch for a fun escapist romp. It sounds like this one fits the bill.
I think it will. I think, you know what, and I'm thinking like it definitely felt like Guardians of the Galaxy in medieval times, like in a Dungeons and Dragons kind of landscape.
There you go. There's the blurb for the DVD set.
Yes, you're welcome, Dungeons and Dragons. Shit, I forgot what it is. Oh, yeah, but if you want to see something like what Joel is describing, a meta Dungeons and Dragons adventure, check out the episode of The Variants, Roll for Initiative.
Oh, yes.
You could find it on YouTube. The Variants, Roll for Initiative. That is the old web series I worked on almost 20 years ago now. And we did an episode where we were sitting around the comic shop playing Dungeons and Dragons, and you get to see us slip between playing in the game as our characters and then back around the table having little arguments and petty grievances with each other. So you can check that out,
or watch the 1981 classic starring Tom Hanks, Mazes and Monsters. You ever seen that one, Joe?
Mazes and Monsters. Or never watch that. Do yourself a favor and never watch that.
That was on our editing bay list, and sadly we never got around to it. Maybe we'll bring it back.
I'm so sad that we didn't.
That'd be good.
Okay, so we're gonna get into the meat of it now. This is part 2 of our show and tell. And last week, Joel, his show and tell was his career path, his life's obsession with the art of editing and creation. His film Cemetery Weed, which have you loaded that yet?
I did, yeah. It's on YouTube. If you do a search for Cemetery Weed, you will find 5 entries for Cemetery Weed Killer. But then if you scroll past those, you'll get to Cemetery Weed on YouTube, which is the actual movie that we were talking about last week. Yes,
it was like, man, film. That guy from that podcast made a movie about just killing weeds in a cemetery.
Yeah, sadly, the SEO is not working on Cemetery Weed yet. But go to YouTube, find it. It begins with the 2-minute trailer. And then rolls right into the movie, about an hour and a half.
Nice.
I don't recommend anybody watch it.
I'm gonna watch
you can listen to last week's episode where we talked about it. But if you want to, and for those who were in it, who lent their time and talents, it's worth it for them to have it on YouTube.
Spoiler: what my obsession of the week is going to be next week.
Oh no!
It's gonna be Cemetery Weed.
Oh, no.
I'll be like, I've been watching this movie. I don't know if you've heard about it, Joe. It's called Cemetery Weed Killer. All right,
that's the sequel.
The point of this exercise was for us to kind of enlighten each other, to share something. Like, we talk all the time about what we have in common. We talk about our common interests all the time, but there are plenty of things that we're into that the other one isn't and may not completely understand, or maybe if they do, like, maybe they don't understand what draws us to it. And so for me, something that I know for a fact that you are not into and probably don't have much interest in at all would be professional wrestling. It's something that I've on and off again been passionate about since probably I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And yeah, it all started in the early 80s. My father would watch like WWF on TV, and I just kind of would watch in passing. Like, if it wasn't a cartoon, I usually wasn't interested in it. But, one day my father came home. I guess he went to New York City to Madison Square Garden to see Superfly Jimmy Snuka in like a main event match against somebody. But he came home with this T-shirt of Superfly Jimmy Snuka jumping down to the ring, but it looked like he was like 50,000 feet in the air, jumping down to the ring. And I was like, wow. And he looked like a superhero, and it completely changed my whole perspective on like this pro wrestling thing. I was suddenly interested. I was suddenly invested in watching this. So I would watch every week with my dad. We'd watch it would be on, like, there'd be shows on Saturday mornings. And I know we talked about Saturday morning cartoons. This was also part of the Saturday morning tradition. Was,
really?
They would have WWF on TV. I think sometimes they'd have matches on Sunday afternoons. They would do stuff on Monday nights. And so we would watch together, and suddenly I was kind of, my world was blown wide open when I suddenly was introduced to this world of heroes and villains, like Hulk Hogan, who's like the Superman of this world, and Andre the Giant, who was like his best friend, but then turned on him.
Yeah.
And like, it suddenly became like this world of really engaging and captivating stories that I completely bought too, like for a long time. And I know I wasn't the only one. Like a lot of people thought this stuff was real.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like people kind of became invested. There was one night, and I'll kind of jump to this real quick and then kind of jump back.
Okay.
But my father used to take my sister and I to the shows when they'd come to Rochester. They'd go to the War Memorial and we'd go see shows. They never really did TV tapings there, maybe once in a blue moon, but we never went to the TV tapings. But we definitely went to house shows. So we saw like all the classics. We saw Macho Man Randy Savage. We saw Superfly Jimmy Snuka. We've seen Andre the Giant. I saw Andre the Giant versus the Ultimate Warrior. I've seen Hulk Hogan. I've seen Brutus the Barber. Like, what's his name? Rowdy Roddy Piper. All these guys, saw them in their prime doing these house shows.
That's awesome.
And afterwards, my father was like, "Oh yeah, they all go eat at this place called Tip Top right outside the airport.
What?
After the shows, they all go." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, come on." And so after one of the house shows once, he gets me and my sister, packs us in the car. We go to this Tip Top place and we sit down. No one's there yet, but we grab a table. And he orders us some food, and he's like, "Just wait." And sure as shit, this place starts filling up with like, "Oh, there's Bret the Hitman Hart. He comes walking in with Ravishing Rick Rude, and there's the Red Rooster, and what? That's Rick Martel. Like they're all these
Pretty
wrestlers."
sure you're making up some of these names, by the way.
No, they're all real names. They're all walking into this restaurant. And they're all talking and like laughing it up with each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. You guys are like sworn enemies. Like you. And so that's when I learned like, oh, like this is all a show. And my father kind of explained, he's like, it's like a play. It's like they do a stunt show. And I was like, oh, so like I'm 8, 9 years old when I realized like, oh, this stuff isn't real. They're putting on a show. But to me, I didn't care. Oh. It was still awesome. Like,
and Joe, you're absolutely right. Like some of the friends that I had, who I didn't dabble in it myself, but I had friends who watched WWE or F back in the day. I don't know which one.
Back in the day, yeah,
we're into wrestling, and that was totally like a school ground fight that was had. A verbal fight between kids. Like no, it's not. It's totally real, dude. The ways So
oh yeah,
quite familiar with that. And I really don't think it was common knowledge that wrestling is quote unquote fake until you and I were well into adulthood, maybe.
Yeah, that's when probably the mid 90s to mid to late 90s when Vince McMahon finally came out and admitted like, oh, this is all predetermined.
Theater.
Like this is it's all staged.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the fact that like there's this whole thing and they call it protecting kayfabe, and they use this whole carny speak. They kind of protected that for a while, but what's fun was, we went to this place, had something to eat. One of the wrestlers, Terry Taylor, who was the Red Rooster, sat down right next to us in a booth right next to us, and I couldn't help but keep staring at him. And my father like would nudge me. He's like, "Joe, stop. That's rude. Don't stare." And he eventually looked over and he was like, "It's okay." And he kind of slid over closer to us. He was like, Are you a wrestling fan? You like did you go to the show tonight?" And it was like, yeah, we had a great time. He's like, "Yeah, what did you like about it?" And like, we sat there for like 45 minutes just jawing with this guy. That's and awesome. Other wrestlers would come and sit down next to him and kind of shoot the shit with him and then also talk to us a little bit. And like, it was really cool. Now there were some guys that came in and would like keep up the character, like Ravishing Rick Rude kept up the character. He acted like a jerk, and that was him protecting kayfabe. He was protecting the illusion.
Now, what does that mean? I'm not familiar with that phrase.
It's protecting the illusion of the reality of wrestling. That like,
what are you saying?
There is an actual feud. Protecting kayfabe. Kayfabe.
What does that stand for?
I don't know. It's like that's their carny speak. Protecting kayfabe.
I'm gonna look it up.
But it was an eye-opening experience. But the thing is, like, it didn't turn me off from it. It just kind of enhanced the superhero aspect of everything that was going on. Like, I was just like, I love it. These guys are telling these really cool stories. And one of the best stories, and one of the things that drew me in, happened in probably 1985. If Hulk Hogan was the Superman of the WWF, and he certainly was. They had a cartoon show that was based on him.
Oh, he transcended wrestling. Yes, I was aware of him. He was everywhere.
He was huge.
Hulkamania, man.
And his best friend for a long time was Andre the Giant, and that was in the cartoon. Andre was his best friend, and Andre was a huge hero for a while. If you remember the Cyndi Lauper "Goonies Are Good Enough" video, it's full of wrestlers. You have Captain Lou Albano playing her dad. He's played her dad in a couple of different videos. She was tied in tight to the whole wrestling community. But then, like, at the very end, you have, like, so you had Roddy Piper and the Iron Sheik, rest in peace, both of those guys, playing, like, a bunch of guys trying to run Cyndi Lauper and her family out of their gas station that they ran. And then Cyndi Lauper finds a cave underground and, like, finds the Goonies, and then they find the ship or whatever, and the ship is full of pirates that are played by all those wrestling villains and stuff. And at the end, they come back to the gas station where Roddy Piper's trying to close them down, and they summon Andre the Giant, who chases all the bad guys away. Like, that was the fun of wrestling back then. But so if Hulk Hogan was the Superman, then Macho Man Randy Savage, around 1985 or so, Macho Man Randy Savage probably would have been like the Batman. And I'm using that term very lightly, but he was like, he had that hero stature, that face stature that was just as good as Hulk's. In fact, I would say that Randy Savage was a better wrestler than Hulk Hogan. He just didn't have the look or the charisma. He had a lot of charisma, but he didn't quite have the same thing that Hulk Hogan had. Hulk Hogan had that star power, especially at his peak in the 80s. Hulk Hogan just really had it.
King of all media. Film, TV.
He's the Howard Stern. Yeah. The king of all media, film. No holds barred.
That's right. One of my favorite movies.
So Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage formed a team called the Mega Powers, and they fought against, I think it was Andre the Giant and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. And I think they were like the Mega Bucks, or the I can't remember what they were. But, like, that was their whole thing, was they fought against those guys. And now Randy Savage had a valet a valet would be somebody that would come with you down to the ring, like a manager or whatever. But her name was Miss Elizabeth. And there was always, like, this whole, like, are they together? Are they not together? Are they a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Real Kermit Miss Piggy thing, huh?
Yeah. So, like, for 4 years, for the better part of 4 years, these two were like the tag team champions, and they basically ruled the roost in the WWE. And then eventually, like, they started to add in the storyline, there was like some jealousy where it seemed like Hulk Hogan would try to protect Elizabeth a little too much, and Savage would get, a little territorial about it. And then, like, maybe they'd lose a match and Savage would blame Hulk, and Hulk would be like, I'm sorry, I thought I tried to be there. And, like, they started creating an air of animosity between the two of them, until in one match, Macho Man got distracted, and Hulk was kind of outside the ring trying to do something or other, trying to keep the bad guys at bay or what have you. And so Macho Man goes to hit one of the guys, and instead the guy moves out of the way, and he accidentally hits Elizabeth.
No.
And Elizabeth falls off the ring. and I sent you links to this too, like the different eras of the Mega Powers.
This is great.
So if you go to, I think it's the second link that I sent you.
Okay.
It's when the Mega Powers first form, and Randy Savage, like, announces that Hulk Hogan's always got his back. It was from WWF Superstars from, like, July 30th of, like, 1985.
Okay. I'm looking for that one.
And it's crazy. No. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage officially formed the Mega Powers.
That's the name of that.
From 3 years ago.
Here we go. All right, I'm going to play it real quick. It's only 2 minutes. There's Randy Savage.
With the world title. He was the champ at the time.
There she is. She's pretty.
Dude, she was beautiful. I used to have a poster of her on my wall.
Yeah, with that 80s hair.
Everybody's pretty mom. That's what she looked like.
Yeah, pretty much. She's Elizabeth Shue. Here we go. Working up to the big reveal. There he is. The Hulkster. Wow. This must have been like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse coming together.
Yes, it was. It really was. But the best is when they would do their handshakes. Like there was just so much power between the two of them.
Yeah.
And it happens at like the 2-minute mark. And I love looking at Elizabeth's face when they do this. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, I've seen them do this before where they draw out the handshake.
Yeah.
I've seen this so many times. There we go.
But it's like Savage has to hold his wrist to keep it outside. It's so dramatic.
Looked like Hulk kissed him there at the end on the cheek.
So that was the origin. That was the birth of the mega powers. One of the first, like I would say, like one of the first crossover, like super team ups of World Wrestling Federation. Like, you know, usually at the time you had like these big names and they kind of did their own thing. Like that was when it was very, very common to see jobbers. Like if you watched WWF on TV and you saw a name person and they were going up against, so a jobber is somebody who's just like paid to make somebody else look good. They're basically paid to come in and lose. Yeah. So
got it.
That would be like
the ringer.
So if you saw somebody who was a name talent and they were going up against like Floyd Johnson, like someone you've never heard of, you knew Floyd Johnson wasn't going to win that match. Like that was just, and they very rarely put like the big names against other big names on regular TV shows, especially when they started their pay-per-views. They would save those. They would kind of create feuds. Every once in a while, you would see like the main event. Like you would watch an hour show of WWE or WWF, and you'd see these names against jobbers, the whole card, and then the final match of the night would be like two named people that was pushing one of their stories forward. And it was very rare, though, that you saw like two huge champions, two huge names like Savage and Hogan.
Yeah.
Like them teaming up. That was, I mean, Hogan teamed up with like Brutus the Barber Beefcake once in a while, but there was in no way, that was in no way as big as, you know, as seeing these two. The only thing that would come close is Hogan and Andre working together. And at that point, it was done. Andre turned on Hogan, and I think it was like WrestleMania 3 was when they had their beef. And yeah, that was the stuff of legends.
Who controls the narrative in these? Because I know, you know, Vince McMahon, he's a name that I know. And I'm going to be, you know, peppering in my limited knowledge about wrestling throughout here because you're really filling in the holes. I'm recognizing some of these names and I know some of the beats. But yeah, this is a learning exercise for me.
Well, they have development teams. They have writers. Freddie Prinze Jr. wrote for the WWE in the 90s, or early 2000s, rather. Freddie Prinze Jr. He was one of the head writers for WWE for a while. Wait. In fact, he has a podcast that he does, I think, called like Wrestling with Freddie or something like that, where he talks about his old stories, writing the storylines for WWE.
Not Freddie Prinze Sr., Freddie Prinze Jr., the actor?
Freddie Prinze Jr., the actor, yeah.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah.
He would have been too young back then, I would have thought.
No. I'm talking about, I said in 2000s, like the early
2000s.
to mid 2000s. Yeah.
Where
he was doing that. Yeah. I mean, when you stopped seeing him do like a bunch of acting and stuff, that's what he was doing. When he was doing the Scooby-Doo movies, that's what he was doing.
He was in it. I had no idea.
He was writing wrestling. Yeah. So Vince McMahon has a lot of say in that. He controls a lot of it. But then, you know, you talk about current times and you have some other people that weigh in, a lot of other people that have control. Triple H, who used to be a wrestler. I mean, I guess still wrestles once in a while, but he is now mostly in creative. He puts together the creative. There was a guy named Vince Russo who is responsible for the very popular Attitude Era that hit in the late 90s. And then they tried to take what he created in WWE, and he was pulled over to WCW, where they tried to do the same thing and failed miserably. But yeah, there's usually a team of writers that put together stuff, and then it's up to the wrestlers to kind of tell that story in the ring. Yeah. And when we get to the Attitude Era, when we talk about some of that stuff, we can kind of dive into that a little bit more. Yeah,
because I was about to ask you, because you're using that terminology, and I'm kind of intrigued that there are different eras of, and I guess, you know, even in my own life, there are, obviously we talked about, you know, the era when it was in question whether these were scripted or not. and I guess the cat's out of the bag now. And I remember people thinking, well who's going to watch wrestling now? Everybody knows it's fake, but that was never its appeal.
No,
from hearing you tell it, and from what limited I've seen, it feels like soap opera for dudes.
Exactly,
and I mean that in a loving way. But yes,
when it's done right,
we want the drama, we want the relationships, but ultimately we want our problems solved through fisticuffs. Right? Yeah. That's what dudes are like.
Absolutely. No, and see, there's the different having strong writing, having a good plot line and good story, and and it doesn't have to be like the good guy winning, but as long as it's a satisfying ending to the feud, that's usually pretty good. But like if you can throw on top of it some like a strong match, like you've got something going there. Like one of the best matches ever was like Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and I think that was WrestleMania 3 for the Intercontinental.
I love these names,
and that was probably one of the first great matches I remember seeing.
What made it great? What makes a great match, just in general?
There were a lot of like high risk maneuvers, stuff like that. A lot of dynamic spots, a lot of power shifting back and forth. That really got the crowd into it too. It gets you invested. Like the sign of a really good match is when you suddenly find yourself rooting for both of them. Like you're really into what they're both doing. You're not really worried about the story. It's what they're putting out there. Like when you could tell someone's putting their heart into like their performance, like that, you can't help but cheer that on. And that's what you were getting with the Savage Steamboat match. And
that's a good point, because I'm making a big deal about, kind of the writing and the storylines and the characters, but really, can't lose sight of what this is all about, which is like the wrestling match itself. And you're right. So much of that storytelling is done through the match itself.
Yes.
Everything else is kind of just set up.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand, and throughout the years, but even through this conversation, just kind of like what attracted you to this. It sounds like obviously you've got some deep rooted childhood memories where you were enamored by this, where you discovered it. It's a moment that you shared with your father, so it has some sentimentality there. But then, one of the things I could never reconcile, as a non-wrestling fan, because honestly, I didn't really have a lot of friends into wrestling. I had one friend who was into it, a really cool guy, Chris Garcia. We played video games together. We had similar senses of humor. We collaborated on school. He was way into comics. But here was this one area where he was just as passionate about it as you are, Joe, and I didn't understand it. And in maybe an elitist way, I don't want to say I looked down on him for it, but it was just like, this looks dumb to me. Like these people are clearly acting. I'm not buying any of it. Of course, this is what I was missing the point, obviously.
Yeah.
And the moves kind of seemed rudimentary, and even like playing a wrestling video game, you really kind of, there's a lot of like running back and forth and bouncing off the wires and
the ropes.
You see a lot of the same moves. The ropes, thank you. The wires. Listen to me. I'm obviously a fan.
They didn't get a wrestling game right until like probably the late 90s, early 2000s as well. Yeah.
And what was that?
That was it was in the N64 WWE game. I can't remember what it was called, but it was for the N64, and it was outstanding.
It was a WWE, WWF still then.
It was WWE, or no, it was WWF.
No, 64 game. Was this WWF No Mercy?
Yeah, I think it was No Mercy.
WWF Warzone.
Yeah, no, it was. I think it was No Mercy.
Yeah, I think you're right. And by the way, while I'm looking things up, kayfabe is a term used in professional wrestling referring to the preservation of the scripted nature of the sport.
Yeah.
Kayfabe.
Kayfabe.
Learn something new. But now I kind of understand, as somebody like yourself who appreciates, fine media, TV shows and films, I was never able to reconcile how you could, appreciate both things at the same time.
Yeah.
The I don't want to say highbrow, but the highbrow and the lowbrow.
Oh, there definitely isn't any highbrow. There's no highbrow to it, but there was a finesse, and it's going to take me back to talking about the Mega Powers here for a second. So the Mega Powers formed, and then I told you about how they ended up exploding. They disbanded because Macho Man Randy Savage accidentally hits Elizabeth on the side of the ring, on the apron as they call it. And Hulk Hogan, seeing her injured in the middle of a match, grabs her, picks her up, takes her backstage while Savage is still in the match with 2 other people, and he ends up getting beat horribly.
Left him out to dry.
Left him hanging. And so then Savage rushes backstage, and they end up getting into this huge fight, and that's it. The Mega Powers are done. And Savage has completely turned heel at this point, which means turned bad guy. He's turned heel, and Elizabeth is forced to pick between the 2 of them. Like, does she stay with Randy Savage because like that's her guy, that's who she's always been with? But then Hogan is on the right side of this, and she knows that he didn't mean any harm, and blah 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 blah. So there's this whole fight with basically the fate of Elizabeth in the balance, which leads to WrestleMania 5. And the Mega Powers, as the whole thing, the Mega Powers explode. And so there's this match between Hogan and Savage for the World Championship. And Hogan, I don't know, maybe it wasn't, the championship may not have been on the line. But yeah, they fight. Hogan ends up winning, leading Savage down this path of like being this heel. And he and Elizabeth split. So it remains like this. Hogan goes on to other storylines, and at that, eventually, Randy Savage wins the Royal Rumble and wins King of the Ring and becomes King Macho Man Randy Savage, or the Macho King rather, and ends up hooking up with Sensational Sherry, who's kind of a villain valet. Oh, dude, yeah. And so she there's this whole thing where she's kind of like, she twists him, and she keeps up the heel thing going with this guy. And so he creates, he's got feud after feud. He ends up having this match in WrestleMania 7. All right, so now it's been 2 years, and there's this whole thing that's been going on. Elizabeth has been out of the picture. We've watched Randy Savage go down this path of being this like fallen hero who's gone just the wrong direction and become the worst version of himself. And so it's this retirement match between Randy Savage and the Ultimate Warrior. The loser has to retire. Ultimate Warrior wins. He beats Randy Savage. Elizabeth is in the audience watching, and she can't believe he's been beat. And there's Randy Savage after Warrior leaves the ring. Randy Savage is still in the ring, beaten down, and Sensational Sherry gets in the ring and starts kicking him while he's down.
Oh,
right?
no.
And this is the another video that I sent you.
Oh, let's see. All right.
It's let me see. It's titled, the WWE Classics Randy Savage and Elizabeth Reunite March 24th. Now this one's it's like an 8-minute clip, but you should watch the whole thing. Yes.
All right, here we go. It's over. Holding up the is that Sensational Sherry with the face makeup on and the
yes.
silver bow in her hair?
Yeah.
There he is. That guy's yoked.
Yeah, that's the Ultimate Warrior. Randy sat on the ground. Warrior grabs his jacket because that's what you need before you leave the ring.
Coat of many colors.
Get your sleeveless jacket.
Yeah.
Man, Warrior was my jam when I was ignorant.
Yeah,
I was an ignorant kid, and Warrior was my jam. That dude had no charisma, no personality, but he had a great look.
He's got a good look. Yeah, costume's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here.
He ultimately beat Hulk Hogan for the championship at WrestleMania 6. And that was supposed to be this big passing of the torch, and he ended up being kind of a disappointment as a championship.
No, really.
As a champion, rather.
All right, here comes.
So Warrior wins the match, and he celebrates, and he's on his way out, and here comes Sherry.
Here she comes. No, she's not happy. Oh, and kicks him in the face or chest, seemingly.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That woman is possessed. Is that Vince McMahon on the microphone?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah. Here she comes. She's climbing into the ring. That's Elizabeth.
Yeah,
in the star jacket. Grabs her by the hair, tosses her out of the ring. Oh, and the ref goes after her. Look at high heels and everything. Oh, he doesn't know it's her.
And so the whole time you think he's going to turn around and deck her again.
Oh, yeah. He almost did. I'm kind of caught up in this.
I mean, dude, the world that watched this was caught up in this.
Yeah, this is
Like this wasn't even the main event of WrestleMania 7, but
Really?
this was
It's
the
dramatic.
high point of WrestleMania 7.
Yeah, get out of here. Oh, wow. She's legit crying.
Yeah. And the whole time, like everyone's expecting him to turn his back on her again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how they draw these moments out too.
Yes.
Like it's just like, what's he gonna do? And it's all, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like The Price is Right when the guys are up there and how much you gonna bid? $1. What? You got the people yelling from the
Yes,
$500.
They wait on it.
Oh, and then they embrace.
Yeah. And
There
then the
it is.
music swells
He's
up.
forgiven her.
And then you'll see they'll cut to shots of people in the audience and they're crying. This was
I'm getting chills.
This was WWF at its best, playing the long game, dedicated and what a risky move to take 2 years to play this story out. And it has a satisfying ending. And it's like what I said, he lost the match, yet he won the night.
Yeah. Just like Rocky.
Oh my
and
God,
Adrian.
It's just like Rocky and Adrian. But this is what I'm saying. Like this kind of storytelling is, that's what draws me into it. It's like, this is satisfying. This is good. I don't care how you cut it. There's no way that you can watch this and be like, okay, they took time to develop a story. Again, over the course of 2 years, they developed this story about a hero that falls and then is redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, damn, like that's really well done. It's, again, super.
That's what we love
In the end.
as humans.
So that's the story of the Mega Powers. That's kind of my journey through the early era of wrestling, was through the Mega Powers forming, exploding, and then the redemption of Randy Savage. It was after that, not long after that, rather, that I kind of fell out of wrestling.
Yeah.
I didn't watch much of it. My father would ask me like, "Hey, are you keeping up with it? You watching Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter?" And I'm like, "No, no, I'm good. I'm okay. I don't need to get into this." It wasn't until the 90s, till 96 or 97, maybe 98 even, that I got back into wrestling through some friends. Like they were like, "Hey, you want to go to the wrestling show? I got some friends who want to go to the wrestling stuff." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I haven't been to wrestling in a while, and let's see what's going on. Let's see what the latest is." And this is when the Attitude Era was starting to kick in. And now would be a good time for you to hit that Degeneration X.
All right, here we go. Now explain to me while I'm queuing this up with the Attitude Era. What do you mean by that?
The
is it-
Attitude Era is kind of like it's kind of like when wrestling got I don't want to say R-rated, but there was a lot of like sex. They really played up the sex and the misogyny, I guess, of the whole thing. Like you had wrestlers. It was kind of like they were taking elements of the early days of wrestling where like you had a character that was just kind of like your wrestler was your character. Like that was, and it was always some weird thing. Like you had like the construction guy or the fireman, but like in the Attitude Era, you had a guy named Val Venus whose whole thing was like, he was a porn star, but he was also a wrestler. And it was like, what are you talking about? And so
name.
Degeneration X is what pulled me into the Attitude Era of wrestling. It was like this group of guys. They were kind of like the rebels, the degenerates, if you will. They didn't follow the rules. They did their own thing. And none of them was ever actually like in kind of like the world championship picture, except for Shawn Michaels.
I know that name.
Was like this whole group that he created with a bunch of guys that were, for the most part, kind of jobbers. But he created this clique, if you will, of wrestlers that ended up becoming like some of the most popular people in the business, and they're the reason why like we see stuff like the crotch chop, because that's what they did. Like
I
back
just
in
saw
the
him
day.
do that. Yeah.
So yeah, Degeneration X kind of ushered in a new era of wrestling for me, where it was like, again, some compelling storylines. It's where The Rock got his start and came up in the business and found his popularity as a heel. The Rock was one of the greatest heels in the history of wrestling, and it was because like the guy oozed charisma.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he was a heel and you were supposed to hate him, people cheered him on. They loved him. It was I hadn't seen a heel like that since Roddy Piper, where like people just like relished in how ridiculous he was.
Love to hate him.
How charismatic he was. He was always coming up with some cool like catchphrase or whatever. And they had no choice but to turn him face because people were just so behind him. But at the time, and you're going to see this, you'll see this video. It's the Stone Cold's Greatest Pop from January 4th of 1999, and it was this match between Mick Foley and The Rock. And what happens is like it's supposed to be this lumberjack match. You've got DX outside the ring. You've
what does
got
that mean,
the corporation. It's so basically it means like if one of the wrestlers goes outside the ring, a bunch of guys outside the ring can kind of beat him up and throw him back in.
God.
Like you can't escape. Basically, you've got to face the other guy. And so at some point, like the whole big brawl starts breaking out between all the wrestlers, and the big guy at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Dude, if you hear that glass break right before his music starts, and the crowd goes fucking nuts. And that was kind of a indicative of the time, though. Like whenever someone's music hit, there would be some kind of pop, some kind of reaction. But this was the biggest one I'd ever seen. And what's funny about this is that during the Monday Night Wars, God, I'm jumping all over the place. There was a thing called the Monday Night Wars, and it was like WCW was on TNT, and they had Monday Nitro, and it was completely live for like 3 hours. Monday Nitro. But then you had WWE Raw, which was on USA, which was pre-recorded for the longest time. So one night, not just any night, January 4th of 1999, you're watching WCW Monday Nitro, and the announcers get on the air and they say, "Hey guys, we just want to let you know, don't even bother, switching over to the competition. Mick Foley, Mankind, ends up winning the World Championship title."
Oh, what?
So they try to let the cat out of the bag. What they don't realize, though, is that they end up shooting themselves in the foot because all the wrestling fans are like, "Wait, what?"
And then flipped over.
Like the numbers for that night, they flipped over. The numbers for that night on Raw have never been beaten. Like they were just through the roof. And that led to the demise of WCW and eventually WWE buying them out several years later.
Oh, is that how that started?
But that's eventually...
Take me through, because there's the WWF, there's the WCW,
okay,
and then they merged.
So WWF was Vince McMahon's father's company, and what it was is like there were 3 or 4 different territories that Vince McMahon's father, I think it was Vince McMahon Sr., that he owned, and that they ended up merging them and making them the WWF. Well, then eventually they had to change the name because they lost the copyright, and World Wildlife Fund retained it. So they had to change it to WWE.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
But
got it.
At the same time, Ted Turner had been in talks with Vince McMahon to put WWE on his stations. Well, Vince McMahon didn't like the deal that they were offered, so he decided to keep it. Well, Ted Turner at this time, I guess, was like buying up other territories himself, and they created they ended up forming like the WCW and putting WCW on TV, and he put it on Monday nights to go up against the WWE, and for like a long time, WCW was killing them. Every Monday night, they were winning the early Monday Night Wars. It wasn't until the Attitude Era when things started to shift the other way, and there started to be a lot more competition. But WCW always had the edge because it was live. And then that one night, man, when I think it was Tony Schiavone goes on the air and he's like, "Don't even worry about going to the competition. Just let you know, Mick Foley, Mankind, is going to win the championship tonight. So you don't even have to go over there and look." And everybody lost. They were like, "What?" This dude who everyone was behind, Mankind, Mick Foley, everyone loved him. He was kind of like the man of the people. He had like several different personalities and stuff. But for him to win the championship,
looks like Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Exactly, yeah. But like he is not what you imagine to be championship material. So you would be like, "What? No." And people loved him. So of course you're going to flip over and see,
I'm watching the way that it
yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and I'm watching the way that it played out, which was not what you would expect. Like, it's one thing to know the ending, but it's all in, again, it's all in the storytelling. It's all in, because there's a couple of flip-flops here.
Yes.
Just from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And so that was...
What did you call them? You had a term for that earlier.
The power shift? Like the shift of...
power shift.
The shift of power. Yeah. So, or the swing in momentum. It's whatever you want to call it. But at the time in the Attitude Era, you had like a dozen or so different personalities, different characters, and every one of them had a storyline, had a deep storyline that was working all at the same time. You had The Undertaker, who had his own storyline. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin, who had his own thing going on. You had DX that had their own thing going on. There was Edge and Christian and The Brood. And, like, you had all these different people, and they all had satisfying stories going at the same time, unlike just 10 to 15 years earlier, when it was like you had Hulk Hogan and, maybe Randy Savage. They had stories, two people, but you had a whole roster of guys getting a great amount of attention. You went and saw house shows, and you saw like a killer card all the time. Like, the product was killing. And eventually they took their product live. Not only were they live on Mondays, but then they expanded and started doing a show called SmackDown, which was pre-recorded for a while. That was on UPN. They threw that on UPN for a while.
Yes.
And then eventually
CW.
Eventually SmackDown went live. So you had 2 nights of live wrestling, and WWE just started, like, they were, man, because I think it's because they went, I think it was Wednesdays or Thursdays. It was whatever night. WCW also had a show called Thunder that was midweek. And so that's what WWE was doing. When they started winning the Monday Night War, they ended up taking it to WCW on their other night, their second night, to see if they could win that one as well. But I mean, that's all beside the point. Like I said, the thing that drew me to it was that you suddenly had all these new larger than life personalities. You had some great storylines that were playing out. It was incredible. And I stayed engaged in that for a while. In fact, in that time, there are a couple of pay-per-views where you might catch me sitting on the front row of a couple of events. Specifically, awesome. There's a SmackDown, or not SmackDown. There's a Survivor Series that was here in Dallas, and I think it was 2003, 2004. And me and my buddy Shannon are sitting in the front row, and you see me mark out for John Cena, which mark out means getting like all fanboyish. No. Yeah, being a huge fanboy. And the thing is, I had no idea who John Cena was. I was just trying to get into it, like being at the event. But yeah, like that's probably around the time, like the early 2000s was kind of when I fell out of it again, and kind of got focused on my job, focused on other things. The thing that was I was always getting out of wrestling when I was kind of getting into girls.
No, absolutely.
When I was like in a relationship, I got in a relationship, and it's like, I'm not watching wrestling anymore, which is kind of amazing.
I don't have time or money for this anymore.
Yeah. Yes. And God bless Sarah. Like, she's been kind of supportive. At one point, she bought me a WWE subscription when they used to have their own network. She'd got me a subscription for it.
One of the things that's jumping out at me is just the size and immensity of this industry. And you're talking about, it airing on multiple nights, and then they added another night, and there was another network that was on at the same time. And it's so a couple takeaways, because one, for me, as I'm in my mid-20s, as I'm flipping through the channels and I see anything WW fill in the blank, like, it may as well just be a blank space for me. Like, on the TV guide, like, I blocked that stuff out because I wasn't interested in it for whatever, not realizing how pervasive it is. And as you're listing some of these names that I know, for somebody who doesn't follow, for them to permeate mainstream culture, and for me to have been exposed, I know Macho Man Randy's, everybody knew him, but I know Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rock, all these personalities that now we just accept as actors that we see in all of our, which back in the day, for me, they were always, the Hulk Hogans and the Rowdy Pipers were always kind of silly to me. And I feel like And now maybe they could have, and obviously both of those personalities did kind of transcend wrestling, and we saw them in other places and film to varying degrees of success. But just the fact that we had it was rare for a breakout star to kind of cross over back then, and then here it's just accepted. Like it's just
commonplace. John Cena. You got John Cena's in movies now. The Rock has got his own media empire.
Who's bigger than The Rock?
Nobody.
Exactly.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Luke, our friend Luke, and I will have this discussion. We've had it once or twice where I'm like, do you think John Cena is ever going to hit that peak that The Rock's at? Will he ever be Rock status? And there was a time where I doubted it. I was like, I just don't think he's got that star power that The Rock has. But the more time goes by and the more I see John Cena in things, I think it's possible. Like I feel like he has to get to that point where he can pick and choose a little bit more what he does. But just in the past 2 or 3 years with Peacemaker alone, I think John Cena has shown a lot of range and a lot of potential. And so I'm very excited to see what he does. Every time he's got something, I'm like, all right, I'm interested. I'm in. Put me into it.
I think he's probably a better comedic performer than Rock, personally.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I can agree with that. I think that, I think one of the things that frustrates me about when they do that crossover with wrestlers is they always give them like that shitty kids movie.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna put him in a kids movie so we can see like the sensitive side of this wrestler guy. There's the Tooth Fairy, or the one where John Cena is a fireman, and like this kid is stuck in it's like, come on, man, and I guess that's what I liked about Roddy Piper. I don't think he ever had one of those. It was that's like true. They Live, a movie where he's beating the shit out of Keith David for like 2 minutes about sunglasses. Put on the sunglasses.
Listen to our They Live episode on the Editing Bay from a few years back. As well as No Holds Barred. Check that out while you're there.
I loved Roddy Piper.
Oh, he was great in that
so much. But yeah, like, and so because of our mutual friend Luke, and I think not just because of, but thanks to our mutual friend Luke, I don't think I'm ever fully out of the wrestling thing again. Yeah. And
you got a man on the inside.
Much to Sarah's chagrin, But like he's always inviting us over to watch like the latest pay-per-view. But yeah, Luke now has a whole company where he shoots wrestling shows. He produces the video elements for wrestling shows, and he's fantastic at it. And it's thanks to him that I still kind of keep a toe dipped into this stuff. And I enjoy it. It's there's fun escapism to it, and I think it's a fun thing that we can share. I obviously, I've tied it into other things in my life. When my wife and I got married, I walked down the aisle to Bobby Roode's theme song.
That's right.
Which I do not regret at all. I thought it was fantastic.
It was awesome. Hell of an entrance.
But at its heart, like wrestling has always been, and I guess coming back to what we were talking about at the earlier part of this podcast, when I was like, what's wrong with just having popcorn fun?
Yeah.
Just being fun instead of it having to be serious. Why can't we just have fun? And for me, that's what wrestling is. And nowadays, wrestling is giving you some decent stories. There's some good stuff that's going on, but you're seeing athleticism in wrestling now like you've never seen before. And especially the female roster, like they're really being serious now about how they treat the female talent.
Well, you've talked, and we were talking earlier about wrestling being fake, and even that is an insult to say, because while the storylines and some of the characters and dramatization obviously scripted, you mentioned they have writers, the moves and the danger and the physicality that these people are putting themselves through, that's all 100% real. You've spoken on this podcast before, or on some of our podcasts before, about injuries, deaths even that have occurred at some of these live events. So there's real consequences for what these performers are putting their bodies through.
I think the most notable being the death of Owen Hart. I can't remember the pay-per-view, but he was playing a character called the Blue Blazer, and he used to make an entrance by rappelling down from like the rafters. And apparently there was a problem with like the safety with one of the wires, or maybe he wasn't even harnessed in, but he fell straight from the rafter down to the turnbuckle, and just basically impaled, broke his neck. And there's still a lot of resentment there, that the fact that they continued on with the show after he passed away, and a lot of people like going back and thinking that was the biggest mistake, and I'm one of them. I think that that show should have been canceled. They should have never gone on with the show. A man died, and then Vince McMahon said, no, we still need to do this show to make our money. And I think it's a disgusting choice to make. And believe me, like, there are times when I question, like, do I want to support this thing?
Right.
Because I know that the person who runs this company is horrible. And there are other options now. There's AEW, which is great, but
love their root.
I mean, but it's like, if you want to watch the talent that you like, what do you do? Like, where do you draw that line?
One thing I wanted to ask, because as this is starting to take shape, as I'm starting to realize like what it is you fully appreciate it, what you get out of it that I'd been missing all these years. And if you've listened to our past podcast, listeners, obviously we alluded to the fact that we've reviewed some movies featuring wrestlers, the aforementioned No Holds Barred, and also movies about wrestling. What was the one with who was married to Courtney Cox? David
Arquette, Ready to Rumble.
David Arquette, Ready to Rumble with David Arquette and Scott Kahn, right?
Yeah,
about a couple of wrestling fans who are trying to make it big. I started to see the passion.
And Macho Man Randy Savage is in that.
He's in that, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
He's also in the first Spider-Man movie.
Oh, I love him. Oh, yeah.
He plays
Bonesaw is
Bonesaw.
ready. I love that. 3 minutes of playtime. Like, he's great in that. But it always seemed like such a, to use the word macho kind of world. I'm not really into, we were talking earlier about alpha males and how they're can be kind of a scourge of humanity if left to their own devices. And this, as a child, to me, as somebody who was into cartoons and Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles, like wrestling, it didn't seem like there was a place for somebody like me there. It seemed like a lot of machismo. I wasn't into sports, so I wasn't getting, my athleticism. Like when I met you, and you and I have so many things in common, except for this one thing. And so I never really kind of understood how you could be into everything else I was into and yet derive entertainment from this. But I understand now. I'm never going to be as big a fan as you or Luke or Danny, but I can appreciate it on a certain level. One question I do have, though, is talking about that machismo. My brother-in-law is into wrestling, and he's somebody else who's kind of like somebody who I respect, who was into wrestling, who I've kind of been ushered into this world a little bit through him. He takes my niece and nephew to wrestling matches, so he's exposing them, and I see what they get out of it. Mm-hmm. But he also talks about how, you see a lot of MAGA hats in the crowds there. There's a lot of right-leaning.
I think for the majority of what you're looking at, the majority of your crowds at wrestling shows, I think it's safe to say would fall under that category.
Yeah. Which is probably another reason why I didn't connect with it, because there weren't a lot of fans like you, Joe, or my buddy Chris, that you guys kind of seem like the exception rather than the rule. Do you still kind of see that in today's wrestling? Really? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. However, it has gotten more progressive.
They let women wrestle now.
Not because of like Vince McMahon. I mean, not just because they let women wrestle, but they also there is an amount of respect that's being shown to the female talent in the WWE.
Good.
That you've never seen before. It's progressive, but I think people like Vince McMahon, I think, are still they're still kind of the scum of the world. I think
he seems like a grade A asshole.
I think the greatest thing that will happen to the WWE, it's kind of the same thing that I used to say about the Raiders, and I say about the Cowboys. The greatest thing that will happen to this product is when the owner passes away. When Vince McMahon dies, I think it's going to but for a couple reasons. I think that his daughter is a much more savvy businesswoman than he's ever been. I think that his son-in-law, Triple H, is far more creative and way better at developing talent than he ever was. And that's why we've had for so many years such a great product and such great breakout talent. I think is because of Triple H. But just to go back to what you said about like the machismo, that I think at its heart, like I said at the beginning, like the thing that drew me into it, because I'm kind of like you, like I played football for a little bit. I played hockey for a while when I was a kid, but I was never like a wrestler. I don't think I ever would have classified myself as like, an alpha macho type. But the thing that drew me into it was the superhero aspect. You had Hulk Hogan,
Yes.
and his superpower was like, if he gets beat up enough, eventually he becomes invincible.
It's like Popeye.
He gets his ass kicked long enough, and eventually there's just a switch that turns in every classic Hulk Hogan match where like he gets beat up, and then suddenly he just gets beat up so much that suddenly nothing hurts him anymore, and he's able to get his second win, and he's like he gets stronger the more that you hit him. And that's what drew me into it, is that superhero aspect, that the heroes and the villains, the stories that they were telling, the larger than life personalities. As great as the personalities are in wrestling, and there's some great talent now, I don't think you'll ever have that same like how the Greeks had titans. I don't think that you'll ever have personalities. And so it's kind of ironic that they used to call it, or I think the parent company of WWE is Titan Sports, or it was Titan Sports at one point. But they truly were. Like Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Ravishing Rick Rude, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man Randy Savage, Classy Freddie Blassie, Gene Okerlund, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Like all these guys are larger than life. And it's like I could just imagine them like existing forever in the halls of some weird redneck Valhalla where they wait for their descendants to join them, like it's a weird thing. Like I see the talent now and I see them as like how I would look at like NFL quarterbacks. I see them as just kind of modern talent, but that talent that built the roster back in the day, people like Roddy Piper, like they're immortal. And to me, they always will be, and it's in no small part because of the characters they played when I was a child, and that's, I think, the rabbit that I keep chasing. Every time I get back into wrestling, I want there to be that one personality. I want there to be that one thing that draws me back into it. Is it going to be that Macho Man Randy Savage reuniting with Elizabeth storyline? Is it going to be the Roddy Piper, that killer personality, that guy that gets it on the mic? Or on that same token, is it going to be another Dusty Rhodes, who, a man of the people, a great wrestler, but also just a talent like you wouldn't believe, a personality that filled an arena. Who's going to be that next person? And ironically, right now, if I were to choose, I would say that person is Rhea Ripley, the women's champion. She is killing it right now in modern wrestling. She is just like nothing I've ever seen. She's all the promise that China had back in the day, back in the Attitude Era. Had they developed female wrestlers as well as they do now, back then, this is what China could have been. But Rhea Ripley is just on a whole other level. And there's probably 3 or 4 other wrestlers that are just as good as she is, ready to carry the torch when they're ready to pass it on. Like it's great. And it's nice to see an emerging talent that has that it factor that they used to have back in the day.
Have you taken either of your children to a match?
No.
Exposed them to wrestling?
I have not. Like Harper's watched it a little bit on TV. James hasn't really watched any, but yeah, obviously I've taken my wife to WrestleMania. I've taken her to Monday Night Raw. Oh yeah. I think there's awesome. A picture of us together at a WrestleMania. When I was with Cumulus, I used to get seats in the Cumulus suite, and we would go to the wrestling shows when they'd come into town, and we just kind of kick back. Yeah, I don't know if it's the kind of thing I want my daughter to get into or my kids. Like, I think
Yeah.
I've become kind of a weenie.
Really?
Just because, again, there isn't really that superhero aspect, that fantasy aspect of wrestling now. It's kind of what it has retained from the Attitude Era. A lot of it is kind of like the language and the aggression. And I guess I want Harper, like, I want her to wait before she gets into this. I want her to understand that, like, problems don't actually get solved by violence. and I guess that's the thing,
Yeah, it's a good lesson.
and I don't know what makes her more special than me, other than she's my child. But, like, my father did that with me. He showed me this stuff, and I think I turned out okay. So I don't know. That you pose a really good question there.
Now, I'm just curious if that's something that you feel like you want to share with your children as they get older. Maybe not so much Harper. I understand that, but little James.
You know what? Maybe classic matches. If I could, like, grab, like, classic matches, classic WWE matches, maybe share the Randy Savage storyline with my kids. Like, hey, look at this. Like how I have with you. Like, take a look. Watch this video. Now watch this. And can you imagine, like, for 2 years, they built this guy up as, like, the biggest villain in the company, and then slowly, meticulously started to break him down again to prepare him for his redemption. Like, that's, again, like, I would point this out to anybody who's into, like, script writing or story writing or just character development. Take a look at this stuff. And on that same token, there is a video, I don't know if I would call it a documentary, but more of like an oral history of WWE, focusing mostly on, like, the Attitude Era. And it created by John Landis' son, Max Landis, who's done a couple of films. I think he did, like, that Ultra whatever movie with Jesse Eisenberg, American Ultra, or whatever it was called.
Some beer.
So he's a little douchey, but this video is really fun. There's some celebrity cameos in it, but he kind of gives you a history of wrestling. It's called Wrestling Isn't Wrestling. And he kind of breaks down what you had said about, like, it's not just wrestling. Like, it's like Game of Thrones, but it's on, like, every week, and it just happens to be dudes in tights that are fighting each other. But, like, the storyline, specifically the storylines, up through the Attitude Era, and he focuses a lot on the story of Triple H. And it's really fascinating. But I would recommend, if you're not into wrestling, but you're still kind of curious what it's all about, check that video out, because it's super entertaining. And if you are a wrestling fan and have never seen this video, check it out as well. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with the references, and you'll already be, like, one step ahead of him while he's telling this story. It'll be stuff that you're familiar with, but told in a way that you haven't seen it yet. But yeah, that's my show and tell, man. The world of wrestling.
One more question before we wrap it up, because we
sure.
talked a lot about the stories and the characters and the through lines, and I see it. Some of the terminology and the things that I look out for now in films, thanks to doing 8 years of a movie podcast with you, I see how you recognize them in wrestling, and how that's one of the things that drew you in. We haven't really talked a lot about wrestling moves themselves, because as somebody who wasn't into the characters of the story or the machismo, I could at least appreciate the athleticism and some, that's where I learned what a pile driver was and a half Nelson and some of these things that we were recreating on the playground. Is there a particular wrestler who had a signature move that really stuck with you? Or
man. Well, so obviously as a kid, there was Jake the Snake Roberts and his DDT.
Jake the Snake.
But I think if we're talking modern era, I don't think anything beats Randy Orton's RKO.
Now, what is that?
That's just, it's amazing. Now, everybody's finishing move, it seems like, since the Attitude Era, it seems like there's a dozen guys who have a finishing move that's just kind of a variation of the Stone Cold Stunner. And that's kind of what this is. It's kind of a Stone Cold Stunner. But Randy Orton has had different ways that he has performed this RKO that have been breathtaking. He once pulled an RKO on a guy who jumped off the top rope to body slam, like this body slam jump off the top rope, and Randy Orton gets up to his feet like in a split second, jumps up, grabs the guy's head, and brings it down. And that's the I don't know if you've seen the internet meme, the from out of nowhere. But that's what this comes from out of nowhere. It's the RKO. There was one at WrestleMania probably about 8 years ago. WrestleMania, it was Randy Orton versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins used to do the move, the curb stomp, right? So the guy would be down on all fours and he would jump up, put his leg on the guys. And what's great about wrestling moves is like the person performing the move is basically like just kind of an accessory. The person who's actually doing all the work is the person that's supposedly getting hurt. If you really pay attention to the moves, like when people give each other the suplex, you can always see like they're actually protecting each other's necks.
Yes.
The way they do it, there's always a method, like the way they lock up. The guy who's the aggressor is always kind of using his left hand, and they do that for the camera angles. They also do that to be ready for whatever. Like there's always a methodology to it. But so they did this thing that Seth Rollins was going to do the curb stomp. They were fighting at WrestleMania. Randy Orton's on all fours, and Seth Rollins runs, jumps, puts his foot on the back of Randy Orton's neck. Randy Orton lifts him up, like pops up and lifts Seth Rollins up in the air. And so that way he has a little time. Randy Orton gets up, grabs him, and comes down with the RKO. And it was outstanding. In fact, I'm going to try to find the video of it right now. Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, RKO. Yeah, there it is. RKO.
Now, what does RKO stand for?
Well, those are his initials. The RKO.
Oh,
Randy.
So he had his own move.
So it's like,
named
but it's like
after him.
knockout KO, like knockout, like RKO.
Got it. It's Randy KO. All my YouTube ads now, by the way, are wrestling ads. Thanks for that.
Funny.
There we go. Oh, wait for it. Oh,
amazing.
That did look impressive. I got to see that again. I got to rewind that one more time. I should put the links to some of these videos in the show notes. If you're listening, check it out. Hopefully I've done that. Right off the shoulder and boom. Wow. All right. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about.
That's impressive, man.
I have seen a WrestleMania or two. My aforementioned friend Chris Garcia would pay for the pay-per-view when WrestleMania came on, and I remember going over to his house at least once or twice and seeing what it had to offer and being like, "All right, I'm not into the characters of the story, but man, this is some for all those people who say this is fake. Like these people are actually doing these things, and it looks impressive."
And friend of show Danny Saint will tell you, like, you never say it's fake.
Oh yeah,
there's nothing fake about it. Like it's predetermined. You know who's going to win ahead of time.
Sure,
but like these moves hurt. Like these people are actually going through this physically.
Joe, you know a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. Has there ever been a time where something was pre-scripted, preordained, and maybe one of the performers went off script? Does that happen? I imagine that would get you blackballed in the wrestling world pretty quickly.
Well, there was something called the Montreal Screwjob back in the late 90s. It was Shawn
These all
Michaels.
sound like sex moves, by the way.
I know, right? The Montreal Screwjob. So it was Shawn Michaels versus Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret the Hitman Hart was about to leave WWE. He had told Vince McMahon, like, hey, I'm going to leave WWE. I'm moving on to WCW. And so they had told him, like, we want you to drop the belt. We want you to drop the title to Shawn Michaels. And Bret was like, no, it's my last, I think it was like WrestleMania or something. I can't remember what pay-per-view it was, but I guess he didn't want to drop the belt to Shawn Michaels. And so Vince was like, okay, fine, whatever you want to do.
Because of bad blood or something?
We'll let you know. It's just, he just wanted, at the time, Bret Hart, I don't usually agree with Vince McMahon, and I didn't really agree with him here, but he does say something when he's been asked about Bret Hart in this situation. And he said something along the lines of like, Bret will always be Bret. Bret started off as...
That's a backhanded compliment.
Yeah. Bret started off as like kind of a tag team talent. He used to be in a tag team with his brother-in-law, Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And Bret eventually kind of... transcended that and became a great solo talent and became the champion. And it went to his head. He became a bit of a diva and kind of expected everything to be his way. and became a bit of a crybaby. And Bret Hitman Hart, unfortunately, his legacy is kind of being a crybaby after that point. Like he just kind of whined and stomped his feet until he got his way. And so when he decided, like, the contract that WWE was offering him, he didn't, and I'm taking liberties with a lot of, there's going to be wrestling fans listening to this going, no, it was the show, or no, it was because of this. Look, I feel like I'm getting the basic gist. So, cut me a little bit of latitude here. So there were contract disputes with Bret and Vince, and he decided he wasn't going to stay with WWE. But at least he told him, because we're talking about a time where people were jumping ship and going to WCW and not even saying it, and showing up on WCW TV with a WWE belt and like putting it in the trash can.
Wow.
Yeah, like making statements. And so that's what Vince didn't want to see happen. He didn't want to see Bret show up on WCW TV with the World Championship title. So he was like, we'd like you to drop it to Shawn. Bret said, no, I don't want to do that. And so Vince was like, fine, okay, whatever. So in the middle of this match, like at some point, Shawn Michaels puts Bret Hart just in like a simple submission move. Like it's one of those moves that like never ends a match. It's just something to kind of kill time while they're figuring out what the next set is going to be. What's going to be their next spot.
Right.
Well, Vince McMahon comes down to the ring and has them ring the bell and announce Shawn Michaels as the winner. And like Shawn Michaels grabs the belt, runs out of there. And there's this argument like right there in the middle of the ring where like Bret Hart like starts cursing out Vince McMahon, spits in his face, and then like writes out in the air the letters WCW before it cuts. So yeah, that's the Montreal Screwjob.
So how can you tell what was scripted and what is actually occurring between these individuals?
One, because like there's a whole documentary about it.
Okay.
there's this whole thing about it, the history. If you Google the Montreal Screwjob.
But if I'm watching that on TV, I'm just like, oh, this is just part of the show.
If you're familiar with wrestling, you kind of know that there's a cadence, there's an ebb and flow to a match, and this did not have it. Like it ends really abruptly, and then there's no like championship celebration in the ring. Usually the loser leaves the ring and the champ like will celebrate. Shawn Michaels grabs that belt and leaves. Like just left.
Hightails it out there.
Yeah, hightailed it out of there. And yeah, it was something. And so like, yeah, there are times where people go off script, and more often than not, it's the people that are in control, people in charge. They go off script. But there are also times where, you've got talent that don't get along with each other, and they may like, they, what do they call it? I think they call it working stiff, where they'll actually like pop you. If there's, usually you punch with like kind of you don't close your fist when you punch, you keep the fist kind of loose and open. But sometimes, they'll pop you, they'll work stiff and actually hit you with a fist. There are guys like there's a guy named Ryback that they used to always complain about. He's not in the company anymore, but they used to say like he always worked stiff. And it wasn't that he had a beef with anybody. He just didn't know how to like control it. He was a bad wrestler.
Yeah.
And yeah, he would hurt people, which was never any fun.
How is the world of wrestling now? You've been following this for most of your life. You've talked about, the heyday and these different eras, the Attitude Era. Is it still growing as a sports entertainment, or have we plateaued?
I think it's still growing in some places. I think there's still good development of talent. I think business-wise, it's going in the wrong direction. I know WWE either sold itself to the Saudis
I heard about that.
Or there was an attempt to sell it to the Saudis, and then the Saudis backed out.
It's a bad deal when the Saudis back out.
Yeah, which is a whole other thing, Like, I think the business of wrestling is broken. I think the business of wrestling is bad, and it's toxic, and it's not healthy for the talent. I know John Oliver did a whole thing about wrestling and how these wrestlers, they're still designated as contracted talent, so they don't have insurance benefits.
Oh God.
And so they have to get that stuff privately. Meanwhile, though, if you are a talent with WWE, they have you sign a contract where like your personality, your persona, your whole gimmick belongs to them.
Right.
But they're not going to pay your insurance. They're not going to pay for your health benefits. And like I think that's terrible. There are people that are paralyzed. In fact, just recently, a former football player and former wrestler, Darren Drozdov, who was paralyzed from an accident in the ring, just passed away recently.
Really?
And like, from what I understand, like he wasn't receiving any health benefits from WWE while he was going through all that. And that's a problem.
It's pretty shitty.
When Vince McMahon and his family are making millions of dollars off of your pain, and you can't go to a hospital, you can't get proper medical care, that's broken, man.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because there's a lot of great talent. There's a lot of great personalities. And I know with the birth of AEW, they were supposed to be fixing that, but it seems like every company that gets into this ends up falling into the same pitfalls. And obviously it's expensive. It's expensive to make sure these guys stay healthy.
Sure.
And so you doing your cost benefit analysis. And maybe there's something to be said about living in that 80s era where you had like 3 or 4 really big faces, really big personalities, and the rest of them were just jobbers, guys that you got whatever city you were in, you just kind of contracted some people that came in and lost to your big names. Maybe there's something to be said for that. Maybe that's more cost efficient, but you're not going to be providing as deep or as rich of a product.
No.
That's
so shitty. How is it
you weigh those options?
How is it then that you talked about WWE owning the personality and the name and the character, and yet The Rock has been going by The Rock well beyond his wrestling career? I mean, now he's Dwayne Johnson, right? But I don't remember any lawsuits.
I mean, they still call him The Rock. I think though because he has a great relationship still with the WWE. He's retained that relationship with them, but also the WWE benefits from him using that personality.
That's true.
They do nothing but benefit from him still being out there using his WWE name.
That's right.
He's not, and here's the thing, it's kind of like in radio where you have non-competes, any company where you have non-competes. I mean, he's not in another wrestling company using the name The Rock. He's out there making a name for himself, making a media empire, starring in Disney movies as former WWE's The Rock.
Yeah.
So
there's a TV show called Young Rock, right? Where it's all about
Young Rock.
his upbringing.
Which is, I mean, when he does the young stuff, when they really talk about like the super young stuff where he's like, when he's growing up around all the old wrestlers, like I love those storylines. I'm not so into like when he's in college or whatever, but when he's like a little boy and like stories about him and Andre the Giant, like those are great.
Well, yeah. Hearing how you began this podcast with that story of meeting your own heroes at that age, I can see why that would resonate with you.
Yeah. And I've had my heroes. Like each generation, I've had my heroes. Like I said, I don't think anybody who was into wrestling back in the early 80s, I don't think there was anybody that didn't like Hulk Hogan. I liked Hulk Hogan. There's just, the guy like I said, he's the Superman. But then eventually kind of found my way. I found Dusty Rhodes and was like, oh, I love Dusty Rhodes and I love Roddy Piper. And then when I got back into it again, in the 90s, I started gravitating more towards Triple H. I like Triple H. I like The Rock. I like Mankind.
Yeah.
And then I got out of it, and then I came back into it, and I'm like, oh man, I really like this Xavier Woods guy. In fact, that's one of my profile pictures on Facebook. It's these pictures of me and this guy Xavier Woods, and it says new best friends.
I've seen that.
And yeah, Xavier Woods is part of this group called the New Day.
Yeah.
But the thing that really turned me on to him is that he's a complete video game nerd. And he had his own like YouTube channel where he'd like backstage at wrestling shows, like as he's waiting to go on, he would have little video game tournaments with other wrestlers.
That's awesome.
And it ended up becoming huge. Like it became his own channel. It's why he ended up becoming, like when G4 came back for that short time, he was a host on G4 because of his relationship with video gaming. And he's just super nice, super charismatic. And so, yeah, I kind of gravitated more towards him, towards Randy Orton. And yeah, it's just, it's fun. It's fun to have those people that when you get into it, you're like, yeah, like I identify with this person. It's nice that they could still find talent like that.
Do you think there'll ever be a part of your life where you fall out of wrestling, where you no longer watch it? Because it sounds like you still keep up with it today and obviously fond of it.
I very loosely keep up with it. Like just the last Royal Rumble, I had tickets because of work. I had tickets to go to San Antonio and see that. So I drove down there and took my cousins and had a good time. I don't keep up with it regularly, so I don't know what's going on all the time. I think because of the algorithms now on Facebook or social media, like I'm constantly being updated on what's happening. Like Bing, Bing knows that I enjoy wrestling, so it's like one of the top stories every time I bring up like the Bing homepage, which is for my work computer. Apparently, we're forced to use like the Bing search engine, or I don't know why, but it's like that the Google homepage, and yeah, it'll show me like the latest wrestling headlines, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess this is what happened.
You get me.
But I haven't watched it in a while. But, I do keep up with like some of the pay-per-views, and I'll watch what's going on with, like I said, with Rhea Ripley. Man, she's amazing. She's like nothing I've seen in a long time. Just a great talent. But yeah, like I think that it's very likely. I think it's very likely that in the next 5 years or so, I could probably fall completely out of it. And then who's to say that in another 10 years, it comes back? Who knows? It's kind of always there. I feel like, James Earl Jones in Field of Dreams, where he's like the one constant through all the years, Ray. But for me, it's gonna be like, the one constant was wrestling. It was always there. So I don't know, man. I think that it was etched so deep into my DNA as a kid, and I keep finding my way back to it. I can see myself living happily without it, but at the same time, why? I don't know why. Like I don't think I need it, but at the same time, if it's here, I'll check into it. I'll see what's going on. I'm sorry, that seems like a real non-committal answer. Like I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too.
Oh no, I understand. I know what it's like to ebb and flow out of our hobbies, our likes and dislikes as they evolve. Sometimes we evolve with them. Sometimes we evolve away from them. Yeah. But yeah, I can see what a deep impact the world of wrestling has kind of had on who you are, your childhood, your upbringing, and the things that give you entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's not just, the oiled up, slightly homoerotic fantasies, but also the storylines and the performances and the pomp and circumstance.
I'll tell you, man, some of my favorite wrestling moments have nothing to do with actual wrestling. It's some kind of a payoff for a story, or it's some kind of side bit that's happened. There was the return of Roddy Piper at SummerSlam 88. Was this whole bit between him and Morton Downey Jr., and they had this whole like, duel of the talk show hosts or whatever.
I remember that.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's outstanding. You know what, Joel? Eventually, I'm going to just send you randomly throughout the week. I'm going to send you like just my favorite bits from wrestling, like that have nothing to do with matches, just my favorite bits, and just see what you think about it.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So there it is, guys. That's my show and tell. My appreciation, love, if you will, of wrestling and the art of writing those stories. For all the bad that there is, and there is a lot of bad, there is some gold to be found, some stuff that redeems it in a way. So yeah, if you haven't watched wrestling, or if you haven't watched it in a while, maybe now's the time to check back in. Maybe you'll enjoy it.
I joke, I talk a lot about wrestling and how I don't understand it, I don't get it, but I do feel like I'm closer to it now. I can come to peace with what wrestling is for you and other people, and then just because it's not for me doesn't mean it doesn't have value. And it's just charged with more than just testosterone. Charged with emotion.
Yes. Testosterone fueled emotion.
There you go. But also the theatrics of it. You're a theatrical person yourself. So I totally get why you're into it.
Look, and honestly, at the end of the day, if nothing else, there is just so much fun to be had with when someone shoots a promo on someone, and it's one of those stereotypical, like, what you gonna do, brother? Hey, brother. Like how they had to, like, in those promos, they had to, like, call somebody out, give kind of a summary of their story, but then also promote where they're going to be. Like, I always loved when they would be like, so tonight we're gonna settle it to Sunday night Pontiac Superdome.
Yeah.
Like Detroit, Michigan. Like, cool, man. Nobody talks that way. For a little bit, I want to mention this one last thing, because for a little while I used to manage a Facebook group called the WWE HR department.
Oh no.
And I would just, like, and it's probably still on Facebook, but there would be, like, just different posts that were in the form of, like, letters from the HR department of, like, you know, hey guys, please remember that office furniture like chairs are meant to be sat in and not, you know, like.
That's hilarious.
Yes. And just like complaining about budgets, or, like, you know,
sexual harassment.
There's this sexual harassment. There's also this whole thing about, like, because in wrestling, there's always been, like, the feud between, like, Vince McMahon, who's the owner of the company, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, who's one of his employees. And so there's this whole thing about, like, conflict dispute resolutions. And this is not the healthy way to do it. You're putting us in an actionable position. Like, it was just a fun way to kind of process some of that stuff too. Yeah, so there you go. Guys, I would love to know if you've got any kind of wrestling stories, if there's anything about wrestling that you enjoy. I mean, I'm not just talking to you, Luke, or you, Danny. I'm talking to everybody. If you got something about wrestling, if you're like, oh man, I love wrestling, I love this storyline, share it with us. All right, share it on social media. We are at Low Res High Def, and you know, if you're just trying to figure out more about our episodes, more about what our show's about, you can find us online at lowreshighDef.com.
Beautiful.
All right, guys. Well, we will see you
Joe,
next week. Well, go ahead.
Well, before you wrap up, I do want to say, Joe, thank you, by the way, for taking us through this world of wrestling, you did such a great job last week of kind of, doing a little AMA, interviewing me. I hope I have done you justice. I actually could talk for another hour or so about wrestling. I have so many questions. So maybe we'll do a follow-up episode. We'll get Luke or Danny on and do a part 2. But I love hearing your insights. Thanks for kind of being open about your love and sometimes unlove for the world of wrestling.
I think the best way to love something is to also understand how you hate it.
There you go.
and yeah, that's kind of wrestling in a nutshell. No, thank you, Joel. This was fun. I'm glad that you humored me, and I was like, hey, let's do a show and tell. I know I've forced you to be maybe a little more experimental with some of these episodes in this podcast. But no, I'm happy that we were able to do it. I don't get a chance to dive this deep into wrestling in my everyday life, so it was fun to do. Really? I got it out of my system. So yeah, I don't. Nobody wants to hear about it. I guess until then, Jeff, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Joel, pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine.
And we'll catch you guys next week on the next Low Res High Def. Take it easy.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Next Wave Radio Network.
That's fucking gold.